In my 40-plus years of coaching competitive golf, I see the exact same heartbreak unfold, like every single weekend.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. You know the scene.
Yeah.
You are out on the driving range before your tee time, and you are just striping the golf ball beautifully.
Just flawless tempo.
Exactly. The tempo is flawless, the contact is crisp, the ball flight is exactly what you want. You feel absolutely invincible out there.
Yeah, you really do.
But the moment you step off that range and walk onto the first tee, the moment somebody puts a pencil and a scorecard in your hand, it is like you have entirely forgotten how to hold a golf club.
It really is the great mystery of the game for so many players.
Your grip tightens, your tempo just vanishes, and the swing you had 10 minutes ago completely falls apart.
Yeah, you build this beautiful swing and then it just evaporates under pressure. But what's fascinating here is that the breakdown in that moment is almost never mechanical.
Right.
I mean, your swing didn't suddenly break on the walk from the range to the tee box. The breakdown is entirely psychological. You know, Jack Nicklaus famously said that golf is 90% mental and only 10% physical.
Which is so true. Yet, look at how golfers actually allocate their time.
Oh, it's completely backwards.
We spend 99% of our practice hours beating balls on the range, obsessed with the minutia of swing mechanics, completely ignoring the mental engine that actually dictates how we perform under pressure.
Exactly.
I see it every day on the lesson tee. Playing competitive golf without a mental strategy is like driving a high-performance sports car with a blindfold on.
That's a great way to put it.
You have the engine, right, but you can't navigate the road. So that is our mission for today's deep dive.
We are going to serve as your personal coaching team today.
Yes, we are unpacking the ultimate blueprint for tournament mental preparation. We are going to walk you chronologically through everything you need to do, starting from the night before your round, all the way through to those incredibly high-pressure final holes.
And to build that bulletproof tournament routine, we have to start by tearing down the psychological bad habits. The ones that are sabotaging your round before you even reach the parking lot.
The pre-round sabotage, yeah?
The absolute biggest culprit we see across all handicap levels. Unrealistic expectations.
Oh, without a doubt.
Amateur players step onto the first tee demanding absolute perfection from themselves. They expect to hit every fairway and hole every putt, which, well, it instantly floods their nervous system with performance anxiety the moment they face adversity.
Okay, let's unpack this, because I've been coaching for 4 decades, and if I look a highly competitive amateur in the eye and tell them not to care about their score on tournament day, they look at me like I have lost my mind.
Sure, they do.
I mean, the scorecard is the whole point of the tournament. How do you practically convince a player, someone who has paid an entry fee and really wants to win, to ignore the very thing they're trying to achieve?
It sounds counterintuitive, I know. But to shoot your absolute best score, you have to mentally detach your self-worth from that scorecard. Obsessing over a specific target, telling yourself, I must shoot a 75 today to win my flight, that disguises an expectation as a strict demand. And the human brain perceives that kind of rigid demand as a threat.
So it triggers a physical response.
Exactly. When you fail to meet it, say you bogey the very first hole, your brain triggers a physiological stress response. Your muscles physically tighten, your heart rate spikes, and your tempo is just destroyed. You have to shift your focus entirely away from the outcome and onto the process.
Because the process is the only thing you actually have control over.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, let's look at the actual statistical realities of the PGA Tour. This completely changes how players view failure.
The stats are wild.
They really are. The best players in the world, the guys who practice 8 hours a day and do this for a living, only hit 60.7% of their fairways.
Wow.
They miss nearly 4 out of every 10 fairways they aim at. And from just 8 feet away, they only convert 50% of their putts.
Just a coin flip.
It is literally a coin flip for a touring pro. Yet a 14 handicap amateur misses a 12-footer for par and acts like it's a catastrophic failure of their athletic ability. You have to normalize missing.
Normalizing the miss is such a crucial concept. And to build that kind of resilience, to prevent those outcome-based anxieties from completely ruining your round, the real work actually has to begin the night before the tournament.
Absolutely.
You cannot just wake up, drink a cup of coffee, and hope you stumble into a good mindset.
No, you absolutely cannot. The night before is critical for initiating what sports psychologists call Analytical shutdown.
Analytical shutdown, I like that.
There comes a specific hour in the evening, I usually recommend 8:00 p.m., where you must forcibly stop tinkering.
Right. Put the phone down.
Yes, you have to stop watching swing mechanic videos on your phone in bed. You have to stop standing in your living room, rehearsing your takeaway in the mirror, hoping to magically find a new swing plane.
Oh, I had a student, a really talented two-handicap, who would literally text me slow-motion videos of his living room practice swings at midnight before a club championship.
Oh, no.
Yes, he was exhausting his central nervous system before he even went to sleep.
Exactly. You must consciously transition your brain from training mode, which is highly analytical and critical, into performance mode, which is athletic, reactive, and trusting.
And once you finally force that analytical shutdown, you have to replace it with something productive. That is where sensory visualization comes in.
Right.
I tell my players to spend 15 to 20 minutes the night before lying in bed, eyes closed, vividly visualizing the golf course. And I don't just mean picturing a line on a map. You need to use all your senses.
The more sensory, the better.
You want to imagine the smell of the freshly mowed grass. Yeah. You want to hear the specific rattle of the flagstick sitting in the bottom of the cup. You want to see the exact trajectory of your ball flight contrasting against a blue sky. Jack Nicklaus credited 50% of his entire competitive success to this specific kind of intense mental rehearsal.
This raises an important question about the neuroscience behind why Nicklaus was so successful with that. Your subconscious mind actually struggles to differentiate between a vividly imagined, sensory-rich event and a physical reality.
Wait, really?
Yeah. When you vividly visualize yourself successfully navigating the first 3 holes, your brain is actively firing the exact same neural pathways in your motor cortex that you will use to swing the club tomorrow.
That is incredible.
You are essentially laying down myelin, building deep neurological familiarity with success. And to protect that calm state you are building, you also need to prep your physical environment. Clean the grooves of your clubs, count your golf balls, pack your rain gear, check the weather forecast, do all of the logistical thinking the night before.
Because there is absolutely nothing worse for your golf swing than a cortisol-spiking morning panic while you are tearing apart your garage trying to find your golf shoes.
Exactly.
But here's where it gets really interesting. What if a player is lying in bed, they are doing their sensory visualization, and suddenly their own brain betrays them?
The intrusive thoughts.
Right. A negative image creeps in. They vividly see themselves standing on the third tee, and they picture the ball slicing violently right into the water hazard. How do they stop the horror movie playing in their head?
It happens to every single golfer, even at the elite professional level. The worst thing you can do in that moment is panic and try to forcibly fight the thought.
Just makes it worse.
Way worse. Fighting a negative image actually gives it more emotional weight. It signals to your amygdala that this thought is a genuine threat. Instead, you simply acknowledge the image without judgment, and then you immediately pivot your focus back to a sensory anchor or a specific process goal.
Okay, so how does that sound in practice?
You tell yourself, okay, yes, the water is on the right, but my specific target is that dark green patch on the left side of the fairway. You consciously edit the movie in real time. You replace the terrifying image of the splash with the positive physical sensation of a smooth, balanced follow-through.
I love that. You become the director of your own mental movie. So let's move the timeline forward. You've slept well, you've visualized success, you've done the logistical prep.
Yep.
But the moment your feet hit the floor the next morning, the reality of tournament day sets in, and those butterflies instantly hit your stomach. How do we physically manage that morning anxiety?
We manage it by fundamentally changing how we label it. What's fascinating here is the biology of what you are feeling. The human body's physical reaction to fear and its physical reaction to excitement are biologically identical.
Same exact feeling.
Yes. When you wake up on tournament day, your heart rate elevates, your palms might sweat slightly, your adrenaline spikes. Your body is just giving you energy. The only difference between feeling terrified and feeling pumped up is the cognitive label your brain attaches to those physical sensations.
So it's all in what you tell yourself.
Precisely. By consciously reframing your internal dialogue, standing in the kitchen and telling yourself out loud, I am excited to compete today, rather than, I am so nervous I'm going to embarrass myself, you instantly convert that surge of adrenaline from a paralyzing force into performance fuel.
It is a massive perspective shift.
Right.
But even with that mental reframe, you still need a physical tool to calm the nervous system down, especially on the drive to the course.
Right.
This is where I introduce box breathing to my players. It is a simple 4-count cycle. You inhale very slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. You hold that breath at the top for 4 seconds. You exhale smoothly through your mouth for 4 seconds. And you hold your lungs empty for 4 seconds.
The underlying physiology of that specific box breathing pattern is incredible. It acts as a biological brake pedal for your body.
A brake pedal, I like that.
Yeah, when you breathe in that deeply and hold it, you are actively stimulating the vagus nerve, which directly activates the parasympathetic nervous system. You are manually overriding your body's fight or flight response.
Lowering the heart rate. You lower your heart rate, you reduce the cortisol flooding your bloodstream, and most importantly for a golfer, you preserve your fine motor control. Without that breath, the tension from stress will completely destroy your touch on delicate chips around the greens.
And while you are doing that box breathing in your car or your living room, you should be conducting a mental body scan.
Oh, that's a great tip.
Close your eyes and scan your physical form from head to toe, looking for hidden tension. Is your jaw tightly clenched? Are your shoulders creeping up toward your ears as you breathe? Are your hands curled tightly around the steering wheel?
Usually the answer is yes.
Almost always. You have to consciously release that tension before you ever pull into the golf course. Because if you carry that physical tightness onto the first tee, it will completely ruin your swing tempo.
Which brings us to the moment of arrival. You have managed your morning physiology beautifully, your heart rate is low, your mind is clear.
You're feeling good, but the second you step out of your car in the club parking lot, you are walking into a minefield. You are bombarded with external distractions. You need to build a psychological shield. In sports psychology, we call this establishing the tournament bubble.
Getting to the course 60 to 90 minutes early is the foundation of that bubble.
Yeah.
You never want to feel rushed, because rushing creates immediate physical tension.
And once you are inside that bubble, you have to ruthlessly protect yourself against something called social contagion.
Oh, I see this all the time.
It happens constantly on the practice putting green. You get sucked into a conversation with another competitor who is complaining about how incredibly high the rough is today, or whining about the unpredictable wind gusts, or detailing the 4 different mechanical swing thoughts they're trying to juggle.
Misery loves company.
And anxiety is highly contagious. If you stand there and absorb their complaints, your own anxiety will spike. You have to be polite, but keep your headphones on, give a quick nod, and keep moving. Protect your mental space at all costs.
I cannot emphasize that enough. The putting green is full of energy vampires on tournament day. And speaking of protecting yourself, we have to talk about the practice tee.
Oh boy.
I walk down the range on a Saturday morning during a tournament, and it is just pure panic practice.
Panic practice.
Guys are out there frantically trying to fix a wicked slice 10 minutes before their tee time, asking their buddies to film their swing from 3 different angles.
Yeah.
It is chaos. I always tell them, the driving range before a tournament isn't a repair shop, it's a diagnostic center.
That is the perfect way to frame it. You aren't there to build a swing. You are there to discover the swing you brought with you today.
Exactly. You are there for daily discovery. You are simply taking a physical inventory of what your body is capable of doing on this specific morning. We are not machines. Some days you wake up and your back is a little tight, and your natural ball flight is a 10-yard fade. If you are hitting a fade today, you do not fight it. You do not try to rebuild your release pattern with 5 minutes until your tee time. You accept the fade, you own it, and you play the golf course accordingly.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, fighting your natural ball flight on tournament morning absolutely destroys your confidence. It tells your brain that what you are doing is wrong. Acceptance, on the other hand, builds deep confidence.
And then you take that acceptance onto the putting green.
You take that acceptance, you leave the diagnostic center, and you carry it right to the practice putting green for the final phase of your warm-up.
Right, the confidence primer. Before you walk to the most nerve-wracking place in the entire golf course, the first tee, you need to finish your warm-up correctly.
So many people get this wrong.
I see guys end their warm-up by missing a 30-foot double-breaking putt, and they walk away shaking their heads. Never do that. Walk up to a perfectly straight, flat 2-footer, make 3 consecutive short putts right into the back of the cup.
Yeah.
You want your final physical memory and your final auditory memory before you step onto the tee box to be the distinct sound of the golf ball dropping into the bottom of the cup.
It creates a powerful, positive psychological anchor. And then you make the walk. You arrive at the first tee, the starter announces your name, your adrenaline is surging. This is the moment you deploy the 90-second reset and the first tee script.
A Ryder Cup strategy.
Yes, heavily utilized by professional teams in the Ryder Cup. First, you need a physical boundary line. You take off your golf glove. That simple, intentional physical action signals to your subconscious brain the practice session is officially over and the performance has begun.
And once that glove comes off, you rely on a hyper-condensed script. You don't have time to overthink. You take one deep box breath, you whisper a specific positive cue word to yourself, something like smooth and free. You pick a hyper-specific micro-target out in the distance and you swing.
No mechanical thoughts.
You absolutely do not think about your hip rotation or your wrist hinge. You trust the script and you let the body react.
Yeah.
So what does this all mean for the actual result? Let me push you on this because this is where the rubber meets the road. Let's say a player does everything right. They do their box breathing, they use their script, they pick a micro-target, they make a committed swing,
Right.
and the ball violently slices right into the deep, unforgiving rough. It's the nightmare scenario on hole number 1. The blood is boiling. How do you mentally recover instantly before that anger ruins the next 17 holes?
This is where we look to the greatest mental competitor in the history of the game, Tiger Woods. He used the 10-pace rule.
The 10-pace rule.
Tiger gave himself exactly 10 paces walking off the tee box to be absolutely furious. You can vent internally, you can be angry, you can analyze what went wrong with the club face, but the moment your foot hits the grass for step number 11, that shot is permanently archived in your mind. It is over.
10 paces sounds great in a textbook, but when you've just rinsed a brand new Pro V1, your heart is pounding. How do you physically force your brain to let it go on step 11?
You force the transition by engaging a different part of your brain. You immediately switch into neutral thinking. When you are angry, your amygdala, the emotional center of your brain, is firing. To shut it down, you have to engage your prefrontal cortex, which handles logic and math.
So you give it a task.
Exactly. Neutral thinking means you don't view the ball sitting in the deep rough as a tragedy or a reflection of your worth as a golfer. You treat that bad lie as a factual, emotionless data point. You start doing the math.
Okay.
You ask yourself, given the yardage, the lie, and the wind, what is the smartest, highest percentage geometric move to get the ball back in play? You completely remove the emotion by forcing your brain to solve a geometry problem?
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Engaging the logic overrides the emotion, but maintaining that kind of intense mental fortitude, that emotional regulation for a 5-hour round of tournament golf is incredibly exhausting. You cannot redline your brain for that long. You will collapse.
Which is why the concept of the mental dimmer switch is so vital to understand. It is physiologically impossible for the human brain to focus at 100% capacity for 5 hours.
Right.
Your brain will literally run out of glucose and your decision-making will completely deteriorate by the 14th hole. So you use a mental dimmer switch. You dial your intense focus up to 100% for the 45 seconds you are actively doing your pre-shot routine and executing the swing. But the moment the ball lands, you manually dial your focus all the way down to 20%.
You have to detach from the golf course entirely. While you were walking down the fairway, look up at the trees, chat with your playing partners about the movie you watched last night. Listen to the birds. Give your brain a genuine vacation between every single shot.
Precisely. And that dimmer switch works perfectly in tandem with the think box versus play box concept. When you are standing 3 paces behind your golf ball, analyzing the shot, you are in the think box. That is where you calculate your exact yardage, analyze the wind direction, factor in the elevation, and commit to a club. In that box, you are the analyst.
But the moment you take that physical step forward to address the golf ball, you are crossing an invisible boundary line into the play box. And in the play box, zero analysis is allowed.
Zero.
I see players freeze over the ball all the time, their eyes darting around, suddenly second-guessing the wind. You cannot do that.
Yeah.
In the play box, there are no swing thoughts. You transition completely from the analyst to the athlete. It is pure execution.
What do you tell them to do if they do start doubting it?
If a shred of doubt creeps into your mind while you were standing over the ball, you must physically step back, walk back into the think box, and start the entire process over.
That strict discipline, refusing to hit a shot while infected with doubt, is what separates the elite players from the amateurs, and that discipline becomes absolutely critical when you reach the closing stretch. Let's set the scene. You have successfully navigated the bulk of the round. You are standing on the 16th tee, you have a personal best score going, and suddenly the pressure dial gets turned up to maximum. The trophy is in sight.
Oh, I see it ruins scorecards all the time. This is the exact moment where amateurs abandon the process and start playing to protect their score rather than playing to win.
Yes, the protection mindset.
They realize they are 3 over par, so they try to steer the ball down the fairway to avoid mistakes. But a steered golf swing is a decelerated golf swing. When you decelerate, your body stops rotating, the club face flips over, and you hit a massive hook right out of bounds.
It is a tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy born entirely of fear. The professional strategy for this exact high-pressure moment is to shift to aggressive to conservative targets.
Break down exactly how a player executes that on the course.
Let's look at a hypothetical scenario. You are on the 18th fairway. You have 160 yards to the pin. There is water guarding the entire right side of the green, and the pin is tucked precariously on the right edge, just hovering over the water. A fearful player stares at the water.
And usually hits it in the water.
Exactly. Instead, your target selection becomes highly conservative. You aim for the absolute fat center of the green, 30 feet away from the pin, ignoring the flag completely. But your physical swing toward that safe, conservative target must be 100% aggressive, free, and committed. You pick a safe spot, but you swing with absolute conviction. You never decelerate.
Conservative strategy, aggressive execution. I teach that to every college player I work with. And mentally, you have to embrace the physical feeling of that moment. I always think of the great Lee Trevino. He used to say that pressure is a privilege.
What a beautiful way to reframe the anxiety of the closing stretch. If you are feeling immense pressure on the 16th hole, it means you have played phenomenal golf all day long. It means you are in the hunt. It means your score actually matters. You should welcome that racing heart, the sweaty palms, because it is biological proof that you have put yourself in a position of consequence. You aren't out there avoiding failure. You are stepping into a massive opportunity.
To make sure you can actually execute all of this complex psychology tomorrow on the course, when the pressure hits, we need to distill it down. Let's give you a simple, repeatable framework that you can rely on for every single shot, from the first tee all the way to the 18th green. We call it the BTR system.
BTR, it stands for breathe, target, reset.
Step 1 is breathe. One slow, intentional, deep box breath before you initiate your pre-shot routine. This lowers your heart rate, anchors your mind in the present moment, and forces you to release the physical tension creeping into your forearms and shoulders.
Step 2 is target. You never just aim broadly at the fairway. You pick a hyper-specific micro-target, a single discolored yellow leaf on a tree in the distance, a specific dark patch of grass on the hill. Narrowing your focus to a micro-target completely occupies your visual processing, which prevents your brain from wandering and obsessing over the water hazards and the out-of-bounds markers.
And step 3 is reset. The moment the shot is over, whether it was the greatest iron shot of your life or a complete shank, you execute the 10-pace rule. You drop that mental dimmer switch back down to 20%, you archive the emotion using neutral thinking, and you move on to the next challenge. Breathe. Target. Reset.
If you commit entirely to that system, you insulate yourself against the inherent chaos of the game.
Because the brutal truth is, golf is an inherently unfair game. You will hit absolutely perfect drives that bounce horribly into deep, sand-filled divots. You will hit terrible, misread putts that miraculously catch the lip and drop in.
That's just golf.
But having a bulletproof mental system makes you completely immune to that volatility. It proves that you truly trust the process over the outcome. When you strip away the mechanics and the swing thoughts, the player who controls their mind ultimately controls the scorecard.
I could not agree more. The mind is the ultimate weapon on the course. And I want to leave you with the final provocative challenge for your game.
Let's hear it.
What if, for your next 5 rounds of golf, you completely stop tracking your score? No birdies, no bogeys written down on the card. Instead, what if you only tracked your absolute commitment to your pre-shot routine out of 10? Rating yourself solely on your mental discipline, your breathing, and your target selection for every single shot. How would shifting your focus entirely away from the result fundamentally change your identity as a golfer?
That is a phenomenal challenge to leave our listeners with. It takes you right back to that driving range where we started, where you swing with total freedom because you aren't afraid of the consequences. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to my podcast. It gives us the opportunity to create daily episodes like this and helps us a lot.